ASMR. Lean back, close your eyes, and let the heavy fog of the outside world fade away. Tonight we are stepping into the quiet spaces where the shadows grow long and the secrets grow loud. Rest your weary head, breathe out the tension of the day, and let my voice guide you into the dark. What if you could make the person you love finally love you back? Not by becoming better, not by being honest, not by accepting rejection, but by making a wish. That is the terrifying question at the centre of Obsession, the 2026 horror film written and directed by Curry Barker. The movie stars Michael Johnston as Bear and Inde Navarrete as Nikki Freeman, and it was released in US theatres on May 15th, 2026 by Focus Features. At first glance, Obsession looks like a supernatural horror movie about a magical object, but underneath that, it is really a story about loneliness, enticement, consent, and the danger of confusing love with possession. The horror does not come only from the supernatural curse. It comes from Bear's original decision. He wants Nikki's love, but he does not want to earn it or risk rejection. He wants control. The story follows Bear, a quiet music store employee who has feelings for his childhood friend and co-worker, Nikki. Bear is shy, awkward, and deeply insecure. He sees himself as the nice guy who has loved Nikki from a distance, but the movie slowly shows that his love is not as harmless as he thinks. He does not just want Nikki to notice him. He wants her emotional world to revolve around him. The turning point comes when Bear discovers a mysterious object called the One Wish Willow. The object promises to grant one wish, and Bear uses it to wish that Nikki would love him more than anyone else in the world. On the surface, it sounds romantic. In reality, it is horrifying. He is not asking to be more confident. He is not asking for a chance. He is asking to overwrite Nikki's free will. That is where Obsession becomes more than a simple, be careful what you wish for story. The movie takes an old monkey's paw style premise and gives it a modern emotional edge. Bear gets exactly what he asked for, but the result exposes the ugliness hidden inside the wish. Nikki does begin to love him, but it is not natural, healthy, or human. Her affection becomes intense, unstable, and frightening. The wish does not create love, it creates dependency. This is important because the movie is not saying Nikki is the monster. The real horror begins with Bear. Nikki becomes the visible consequence of his selfish choice. Her behaviour becomes increasingly overwhelming, but the audience understands that something has been done to her. She has been changed. Her autonomy has been stolen. That makes the movie uncomfortable in a smarter way than a basic possession story. According to cast comments reported around the film, Nikki's transformation is not meant to be read as demonic possession, but as the result of a morally twisted, magical wish. Bear's journey is also what makes the movie so disturbing. At first, he seems sympathetic. He is awkward. He feels invisible. He wants love. A lot of viewers can understand those feelings, but the movie uses that sympathy against us. It asks, at what point does sadness become entitlement? At what point does longing become control? Bear does not start as a traditional villain, but his choice reveals something deeply selfish. He would rather Nikki be magically forced to love him than accept that she may not feel the same way. As Nikki's affection grows more intense, Bear starts to realise the wish has consequences, but the tragedy is that his regret comes too late. He wanted the fantasy version of love, attention, devotion, Bear is forced to confront the truth that what he wanted was never real love in the first place. The one wish, Willow works as the movie's central symbol. It represents the shortcut Bear wants to take. Instead of emotional honesty, he chooses magic. Instead of vulnerability, he chooses control. Instead of accepting Nikki's choice, he tries to rewrite it. The object itself is almost less important than what it reveals about him. Like many horror objects, it does not create evil out of nowhere. It exposes what was already there. That is why the title Obsession has two meanings. Nikki becomes obsessed with Bear because of the wish, but Bear was already obsessed with Nikki before the wish ever happened. His obsession was quieter, more socially acceptable, and easier to disguise as romance. But it was still obsession. The movie flips the dynamic. Once Nikki's obsession becomes loud and frightening, Bear finally sees what obsessive love looks like when it has no boundaries. The film also plays with the idea of the nice guy fantasy. Bear is not a confident villain who enjoys power. He is insecure, lonely, and desperate. But the movie refuses to let insecurity excuse manipulation. That is one of the strongest parts of the story. It shows that someone can seem gentle and still act selfishly. Someone can be emotionally wounded and still hurt another person. Bear's pain may explain his wish, but it does not justify it. Nikki, on the other hand, is one of the most tragic parts of the movie. She is not simply a scary love interest. She is a person whose ability to choose has been taken from her. The more extreme her behaviour becomes, the more the audience is reminded that this is not truly her. The horror is not just that she is obsessed. The horror is that Bear caused it and now cannot fully undo it. This creates a strong emotional tension. Bear becomes afraid of Nikki, but he is also responsible for what is happening to her. He wants to escape the consequences of his wish, but the movie keeps pulling him back to the original moral failure. He treated love like something he could possess. Now that possession has become terrifying. The movie's horror works because it is built on emotional discomfort. Yes, there are supernatural elements, dark humour, and shocking moments, but the real fear comes from the relationship dynamic. The scariest question is not, what is the one wish, Willow? The scariest question is, how many people secretly want control and call it love? That is also why Obsession connects with modern horror trends. It takes a simple concept and uses it to explore a deeper social fear. Recent horror has often focused on trauma, grief, identity, and relationships. Obsession fits into that space by focusing on romantic entitlement. It is not just about a cursed object. It is about the fantasy of being loved without having to respect the other person's freedom. The performances are central to making this work. Michael Johnston's Bear needs to be awkward enough that we understand him, but flawed enough that we slowly lose trust in him. Inda Navarreta's Nikki has the harder role because she has to move between warmth, vulnerability, intensity, and horror without becoming one-dimensional. Critics and entertainment outlets have especially pointed to Navarreta's performance as a major reason the film works. The film's reception has also been strong. Rotten Tomatoes listed Obsession with a very high critic and audience score shortly after release, describing the story as a dark, wish-gone-wrong horror film about Bear using the one wish, Willow, to win Nikki's heart. The movie also gained attention because Curry Barker came from a micro-budget horror background, making the jump from online horror projects to a major theatrical release choices. But obsession is more psychologically sharp than that. The punishment is not only physical danger or supernatural chaos. The punishment is realization. Bear has to face the fact that the love he wanted was never love once Nikki's choice was removed. In that sense, the movie's message is clear. Love without consent is not love. Devotion without freedom is not romance. And getting exactly what you want can become a nightmare when what you want is control over another person. The brilliance of obsession is that it starts with a fantasy many people understand, wanting someone to finally love you back. But then it strips away the fantasy and shows the selfishness underneath. Bear does not become trapped because the wish misunderstands him. He becomes trapped because the wish understands him too well. So, when we break down obsession, the one wish willow is not the real villain. Nikki is not the real villain either. The real villain is the belief that love is something you can force, earn through suffering, or claim because you want it badly enough. The movie turns that belief into a curse, and that is why the story lingers after the credits. Obsession is a horror movie about desire, but more importantly, it is a warning about entitlement. It asks us to look at the difference between loving someone and needing to own them. And by the end, the answer is disturbing. The moment Bear makes the wish, he proves he never truly loved Nikki the way he thought he did. And so, the curtain falls, leaving us alone in the quiet dark once more. Thank you for spending these midnight hours with me. If you felt a chill tonight, don't forget to gently tap that subscribe button, leave a soft like, and share your darkest thoughts in the comments below. Until the shadows call us back together again, sleep tight.